What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. Today's video, we're taking a look at an Ultra League team in which I tried while flailing in just absolute misery on the Friday stream, not really knowing where to go with anything I was doing. It's just like up and down, up and down, up and down. But I did grab a really good set with a Pidgeot double steel team, grabbing that. I believe Caleb Peng may have been the one to really popularize this line. But gave it a shot, did really solid because it seemed to do well against the meta at the time. And I actually want to take this video a little bit different than a typical sped up team video. We're going to go through all the battles here, like 5 or 6 battles, and we're going to talk through them because this team actually came through on a lot of different battles against what I would consider to be super hard counters. So first game, I scream as I see a Aggron in the lead, and the opponent has a Charizard. Now, I clearly understand. I'm in rank 18, okay? People are going to run some spice, whatever they have. They're having fun. It's okay. I'm going to do my best to play my best still. So, opponent has a Charizard. Now, here's the thing that I know about Charizard and Registeel, especially with my Registeel, because mine, as you can see, the IVs are not like Super XL as much as I wish they were. After the opponent takes a debuff, I can live very comfortably a Blast Burn. So I shield up the first one. I fail to get the debuff on the first one, of course. So I'm going to shield up there, Blast Burn. I'm going to go for another Zap Cannon, and I do get the debuff this time. So now I know I can safely no-shield this next move, even if it's a Blast Burn. If it's a Dragon Claw, even better. So it's a Blast Burn. See, I can take it, no problem. If the opponent had gone for a Dragon Claw at that point, I would have been even happier. But no shielding that regardless. And now I'm going to be able to go for the Zap Cannon that's going to be able to KO this Charizard and actually secure me Switch, which is the biggest thing in this game right now. Boom! Because having Cobalion against that Aggron is what's going to be huge. But the opponent comes back in with the Aggron. Perhaps they're weak in the back to Aggron, or to Registeel as well. So I'm going to be able to get a twofer here and get to take out this Aggron with the Focus Blast as well. Boom! And they have Wall Ring, so they're definitely not happy to see this Registeel. And I know, all right, so this was a bit of, teams weak to Registeel. I promise the games that come after this are going to be a lot more sweaty. At this point, what I basically do here is I say I'm going to come in with my Pidgeot, force the opponent to throw energy. The last thing I want them to do right now is throw an Earthquake at my Cobalion, even though I know it won't KO. I just don't want to take that chance. So I'm looking to either go for Brave Bird. I'm just going to go for Brave Bird, honestly. But my opponent does throw energy here, which is fine. I do let this go. And then I'm just going to finish up the game with Cobalion. And I can pretty confidently just get to a Stone Edge here, and that'll be enough. It is worth noting that the Stone Edge does do more damage than the Sacred Sword per hit. But obviously, if you can get to 2 Sacred Swords, I imagine that'll do more overall damage than a single Stone Edge. But if you're only going to be able to get to 1 move, then you want to go for it. I go for one more extra move here just in case, but I'm pretty sure the Stone Edge will do it. So that, obviously, terrorizing lead. We were able to win the safe switch matchup because we had some matchup knowledge. So good game to the opponent. And now we get into the nasty stuff. Okay, you sat with me. We had a fun first battle with Aggron. Now we catch a Steelix lead. Okay, this is the same thing. I have 2 things in the back that can beat it. I safe swap in Registeel here. My opponent comes in with Poliwrath. Normally I do safe swap the Cobalion, but in that kind of situation, I understand that Registeel is the least dominant matchup because it doesn't have the quick Sacred Swords. So we're gonna go for the Zap Cannon. We get the shield off the Poliwrath. No drop, of course, because I never get 67% Zap Cannon drops unless, once in a while. I just have the worst debuff luck, man. Look, my opponent gets a 50% drop, but I can't get a 67% drop. What is this? This is rigged. This game is rigged. Anyway, look, you all know, and I will say it, I don't believe that there is an evil matchmaking algorithm, but I also say to people who do believe in it, these are the games that make me think. If you want to go back and watch my stream on Friday, I have the recording up. I certainly do understand why people believe it exists because I've seen the kind of gameplay that makes me feel like maybe there is, but I will not concede. I do still think it's a conspiracy. However, I'm certainly not going to call the people who do believe in it anything other than maybe just unlucky. I mean, honestly, I understand, okay? Look at this. Jellicent? Okay. What am I supposed to do about that? What am I supposed to do about this? Anyway, I'm not ranting as much here, right? So we basically lured out the Poliwrath, which we had hoped was the hardest counter to the Cobalion, which it kind of was, but it kind of wasn't, right? Like, if I had safe swapped Cobalion, they probably would have brought the Jellicent, but if they had brought in the Poliwrath, I actually would have been in a really good spot here, because Registeel would have been able to clean up this game kind of nicely. So the opponent goes for the Surf Bait here. Feels bad, man. But now I feel like they're going real quick, so I'm going to just go ahead and no-shield this because it is a Surf. If I can call a Surf and keep some HP and a shield, I'm kind of in a good spot here. So I'm going to overload on energy, go for the Stone Edge. And the opponent will probably shield this or the next Stone Edge, to be honest. And what I'm really hoping to do here, actually, is to catch a move on my Pidgeot if I can. So we're going to go for another Stone Edge here, and we actually win CMP over Jellicent, which I have not used Cobalion lately, so that's actually something that I did not know. So I learned that just today. And they shield. So at this point, I kind of want to try to catch a move on my Pidgeot, conserve the energy on my Cobalion. The only win condition that I can possibly see right now is having the energy to be able to take out, but I go for the CMP sack swap and my opponent wins that and I'm not able to get a move off. So that feels really bad. This really kind of unfortunate. So once again, just going to overfarm on here. Opponent does come in now with the Steelix. And I don't know if they have a move banked or not, but I have quite a bit of energy. I'm going to go for 2 Sacred Swords here, and I'm going to hope that a third will KO. But I don't remember how much damage this does because it's been a while since I played this matchup. So we're going to go for the Sacred Sword. My opponent goes for a move immediately. I tell this is either Psychic Fangs or Breaking Swipe because they were only at 4. And at this point, I see how little damage this does, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's a chance. So I'm going to overload on energy, but I overload by one too many, thinking that I still needed one more double kick to KO the Steelix, and they get to the move. So potentially, all I needed to do was get to a Sacred Sword plus a Stone Edge, and I might have won. But shame. So getting into another game here, this is going to be the set. So I pivoted to this team because there was a lot of people playing Poliwrath. So my opponent has an immediate swap into the XehrFelrose. And I think this is like the only good lead I saw this entire time playing this team. So I'm going to keep going on energy because I realized that by performing a cycle reset, which basically is me waiting for the fast move and charge move to reset, I can go 1 Sacred Sword, and that'll fit quite nicely under that 4-turn Volt Switch, so I'm going to prefer to do that. Go for 1 double kick and then go for the Sacred Sword, and seeing how much damage this does makes me very confident that I should be able to win Switch. I'm not sure if the opponent has Thunder Punch at this point or Trailblaze, but I imagine that they probably wouldn't have thrown a Brutal Swing into my fighting type unless they didn't have one of those. So I'm going to no-shield this here. We'll be able to keep Switch advantage, which is huge. They do have Thunder Punch, which is interesting. Going to farm down, and then I can go for a couple, at least 1 or 2, hopefully 2 Sacred Swords in the time that this Poliwrath is going to be able to farm me down. So I'm going to go for as many moves as I can, even if I have to omit my timing for the second one just to get it off. And that'll hopefully make Pidgeot's job a little easier, even though the opponent is going to have an Icy Wind almost ready to go when the Pidgeot comes back in, which is going to be awkward. But Pidgeot still does fine. Icy Wind really doesn't hurt that hard, and we've already taken out half of the opponent's team with pretty much just Cobalion. So when it gets, a chance to overfarm, this thing is actually really strong. Definitely worth having on your your Ultra League roster rather. And the opponent now has a Cresselia in the back. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and build up this energy and catch a move on my Registeel. Maybe it was a little bit rude to do it, but I want to keep that energy banked for the Poliwrath. There's no reason for me to use that energy here. I would much rather save it to be able to use it on the Poliwrath later, and this is such a dominating matchup that I don't really need to worry about throwing a Feather Dance or a Brave Bird at this point, because Registeel can definitely take care of this. In hindsight, yeah, I could have softened it up with the Brave Bird a bit, but really it's not necessary. Even for a non-XL Registeel, this Cresselia matchup is just extremely good for it. So going to be able to go for multiple Zap Cannons here. Still no attack drop. Every time they use it against me, dude, I swear, it's like every single time I receive a Zap Cannon, I get the attack drop. But when I'm using it, it feels like it never happens, man. So, Grass Knot, this is a fun matchup, I know. And then the opponent swaps in their Poliwrath. Now, the mistake that they made was they swapped right away. They would have been better off waiting until I had thrown my energy to swap in, because now I can just come in and go for a Feather Dance here. And honestly, if I want to, I could also shield farm down if they decide to... So I'm pretty sure they let this go, yeah, because they need to save their shield for Cress, I imagine. But I can just go ahead and, shield this up, Feather Dance the crest, and really just eliminate any chance they have of possibly getting past my Registeel, which is unfortunate. In this case, I did get, you know, I got really favorable alignment, so this is kind of the inverse of all the other games in this video. This is like the one that I had a good lead, but this was important for me to include because I wanted to kind of explain how I'm playing it out. So now the opponent does concede. I would have just thrown a Brave Bird here, and it looks like the opponent kind of tapped out of their app here. So I don't know if they left or what, but just hit surrender, trainer. Don't have to close the app. Just hit surrender. It's okay. It's actually quicker if you hit surrender. Then you don't have to reload the whole game. Imagine that. Anyway, taking out that opponent. Good game. Now getting into the next battle here. It's about to get ugly. But I promise these are some fun games. I promise. Pidgeot and Cobalion, okay, favorable enough, but they do have Stone Edge and Sacred Sword, so the problem with this is that it's very awkward for the backline because a Cobalion can absolutely destroy my backline, so I'm going to go for the Brave Bird here. A lot of the times, people expect you to go for Feather Dance, and this is the mind game of Pidgeot. Go for the Brave Bird, they ain't going to shield it, and now I'm going to go into my own Cobalion. I can, if I have to, tank a couple of Sacred Swords. I'm hoping that since they have a fighter in the lead, that Registeel is going to be able to overcome whatever's in the back. And they have the Feraligatr, which is the premier thing that people are either running or just triple countering. And this is why you've seen so many people playing things like XehrFelrose lately, because they're trying to lock down Poliwrath and XehrFelrose, two very strong answers to the Feraligatr. So we're going to be pretty much coming back in with the Pidgeot because we do double resist the Shadow Claws while we're able to do single neutral damage, rather. Back to the Feraligatr. So they're going to look to go for a charge move. Kind of thinking they might go for the Ice Beam here. So I'm going to shield up here, and they go for Hydro. So I'm going to go for just a slight, you know, not even going to go for any more moves, honestly. I didn't remember how many exactly they had, so I'm going to go for the Feather Dance here and then continue my farm down. If they're still able to throw a move, that's unfortunate. But thankfully, didn't have a move quite ready to go. So, going to be able to take it out, keep the Cobalion locked down, and I'm just going to... I have to, dude. I have to shield this. This feels so bad because it could be a Stone Edge, but I have to shield this. And they bait with a Sacred Sword. Feels so bad, man. So, opponent now comes in with a Dragonite. And if they call this as a Brave Bird, and they shield it, but they don't. They shield the Feather Dance, which is great. This gives me a fighting chance because I can come in with my Registeel at some point here and go for the Superpower. Now, they have a very debuff attack stat. This could be a Superpower, could be Dragon Claw. It's not going to be enough to KO the Pidgeot. But at this point, I decide I'm going to bank the energy since they just threw energy. They're at no energy, I assume, or close to it. So now I'm just going to come in with Registeel and keep the Brave Bird banked just in case I need it later. So now I'm going to go for Zap Cannons into this Dragonite. My opponent has shield, so they'll be able to shield through one Zap Cannon. At this point, though, I will have to watch out for a catch. The Cobalion is very low, and I can tank a Sacred Sword as long as the opponent doesn't get to another Superpower, which is going to be awkward. But they're in a range where I can lock on down. So opponent goes for the catch here, not quite before I get to a move. And since they just threw Sacred Sword before swapping out, I'm going to assume that they have no more energy left. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to farm down. And yes, I am very low. The Superpower from the Dragonite will KO, but here's the thing. Because I banked the Brave Bird, now they're forced to throw the energy or take a Zap Cannon. And now because of the fact that they're throwing this energy, they're going to debuff themselves with a Superpower, and the Brave Bird now is going to KO. So in hindsight, yes, very glad now that I saved that Brave Bird instead of trying to throw it ahead of time. So we're going to be able to take this one, and I'll even hit the button for that. Boom! Good game. All right, now I promise it's going to get sweaty. In the next battle. No, I specifically remember this set. There were like three really hard, there was like 3 or 4 hard cards. There's the XehrFelrose right here. Okay, XehrFelrose lead. Gonna safe swap into Cobalion because we outpace it, and the opponent brings in Jellicent. Ah! This is the painful stuff, man. This is what I had to go through. Like this is what it felt like all day on the Friday stream, was just constantly hitting the wrong end of the bad matchups. And it sucks, man. So really what I'm doing in this matchup is I'm going to go for as many Stone Edges as I possibly can before the opponent's able to knock me out here. And Pidgeot can pretty freely farm this Jellicent down if they take another Stone Edge. I will have to take maybe a Surf or 2 to do so, but I do know that even though it's resisted, a Brave Bird does do damage. So It's still worth noting, especially when a Pokemon is you know, kind of lacks the bulk like XehrFelrose does and able to survive, be able to get to the Stone Edge. Pidgeot can still hit fairly decently with a Brave Bird, so I have to remember that at least. So we're gonna come in here with the Pidgeot. We're gonna farm it down all the way. I'm not gonna throw a Feather Dance at the Jellicent. I'm not gonna do anything because my my Pidgeot is completely hard walled for the most part by the XehrFelrose. There's no need for me to put a shield. Rather, what I'd like to do is instead put both shields into my Registeel and hope that it can sweep in the end game. And that's a tactic that I use a lot when I get a really bad lead like that and I get a really hard switch. I'm just like, all right, I may lose this game, but I'm going to put 2 shields into the thing that I have in the back, and I'm just going to go for it, all right? So what I did there, I'm going to pause it so I can explain this. What I did there, if you saw, the Pidgeot kind of lagged a little bit. What I tried to do there was throw 1 wing attack and wait 1 turn to see if the damage on that Volt Switch would register before I threw the Brave Bird. I waited just to see, but either they had 1 turn lag or the damage registered on the Volt Switch ending, which means that I'm going to have to take the debuffed Volt Switch. That's all it was trying to do, was prevent myself from taking the debuffed Volt Switch, but unfortunately you can see I dropped quite a significant amount of HP. Now my opponent comes in with a Talonflame, and now this is actually fine, because 1 Zap Cannon just about knocks this thing out of the sky. The only thing that I have to be able to do here is try and figure out how am I going to take care of the XehrFelrose. Now the opponent does get the attack drop. I could have probably no shielded this one, but I don't really know how I feel about doing that. I was really hoping that I would be able to make it, but I realize it's 3 and then 2 incinerates to the second move. So I will have to put both shields down in order to do this, but I'm going to look to overfarm as much as I can. If I can force the XehrFelrose to throw energy, that's okay. I'm not gonna overfarm anything. What am I kidding? I was looking to actually look. I'm doing this video in hindsight, okay? So, kaboom! But we're able to take it out. Unfortunately, I do take the incinerate. I was trying not to take the incinerate damage because I thought that if I didn't, perhaps I would be able to not go down to this Brutal Swing or Thunder Punch. And thankfully, I don't necessarily go down to it. However, they're going to be able to farm me down, but they get scared and they throw the energy, which is actually huge here. That means that they're not going to be able to get to a move against Pidgeot within the next couple of Volt Switches. And so the amount of damage that I've done with these lock-ons here and the Brave Bird before, at this point, I'm just praying it's enough. Because if it's not enough, then I'm done and I'm cooked. But the Brave Bird is enough. I see the little indicator on the bottom, and that's going to be a good game. Overcoming that miserable game. Well played to the opponent, though. Maybe I should have led with that battle, because I feel like we took a little while to get here. Wheezing in the lead, very, very neutral, really, but again, Wheezing with Overheat into my back line, really not good at all. So I have to stay here, and the opponent throws first, so I'm like, okay, either it's an Overheat or a Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing's not going to do that much. Maybe it's a Play Rough, but Overheat would debuff them and they'd basically have to swap out. So then I could just simply go for a Feather Dance and whatever came in, right? So I'm going to go for the Brave Bird here, hoping they don't expect it, and they don't. And I look to swap on what I believe is the Overheat. But I was like, wait, they should throw Brutal Swing because I just debuffed myself, right? Wrong! They go for the Overheat, and I'm in a lot of pain. They come in with a Deoxys, and I'm like, okay, how in the hell am I supposed to come over this now? So, just watch. It gets better, I promise. So, the Deoxys is going to resist that Sacred Sword. It doesn't do much. I have Registeel, and I have Pidgeot. I'm going to go back in with the Pidgeot here, and I'm going to go for the Feather Dance before they can get to a move. They did just swap, so my switch timer is coming up as well. We're about, well, they just swapped, but thankfully, look, I'm a mess. I'm in shambles, okay? Trying to recall every event 2 days later is a little difficult, but I'm trying my best, okay? Rock Slide going to do some damage, but thanks to the Feather Dance debuff, they're not going to quite be able to get there. Now I'm going to go for the Brave Bird if I can, but opponent does get to a move before I do, so I do have to shield this up respectfully. Have to keep my Pidgeot alive here in order to deal with whatever else might be in the back. So now I'm going to bank the energy, come in with Registeel as I've gotten the Deoxys down to a range where we might have something to play against here. If the Brave Bird, once again, the Brave Bird has to be enough damage here. So now gonna go for the Zap Cannon. That is not gonna lower the attack of the Golisopod. Yet again, no debuff. But Registeel is going to be able to one-shot the Golisopod once we get to the next move. So, but Golisopod being very, very solid here is going to be able to get to multiple liquidations, I believe. Maybe 2 before I get my move off. But thankfully, they are not, however, going to be able to drop my defense. So even though I don't get debuffs near today, which is great. Also note that the opponent's Deoxys had Rock Slide. So I'm going to overfarm by a bit here. And then I'm going to go for the Zap Cannon once I have 100 energy. Because I have this overfarm, it'll make it easier for me to get to the move against the Deoxys here.
Boom!
Opponent comes in with the Wheezing, and I'm like, dude, there's no way. So I go for, I have to go for the Focus Blast here to KO before they get to an Overheat. I cannot risk it. I don't know what they have, but I cannot risk it. My Registeel is important here. I need it to get to a move against Deoxys. So Deoxys's counters do add up very, very quickly, and they have energy. Now they go for a move here. If this is Psycho Boost, that's okay too. If it's a Rock Slide, it's resisted. Not going to do a whole lot. Hopefully I can get to the move, but they get there right before I do. So now it's all up to Pidgeot. Is this Brave Bird going to be enough? Deoxys is very defensively weighted, and I don't know if it's going to be enough. But we have to try. Like, it's all coming down to Brave Bird, man. Is it going to be enough? I don't know, but you're going to find out as soon as we see if my research gets collected or not. There it is. We did enough damage, and that means Deoxys is going to go down. And I hope that these games were, you know, I know that not all of them were like super hard counter from start to finish, but there definitely were a few. And I was able to pull out a 4-1 and a little bit more with this team. It was really fun. It really kind of depends on what you're seeing in the meta, but almost able to hit rank 19 with this team. So I know we did the Spring Cup yesterday where I hit rank 19, switched them up because, you know, Spring Cup content. Oh, and I just realized this whole thing's got the Spring Cup on it. Oh my goodness. Well, Spring Cup Ultra League, baby. Anyway, I'll figure a way to fix it. I'll apologize in the comments or something. I forgot to change it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if the slower, you know, less battles but more input, if that is something that you like to see. Let me know in the comments. I'll try. I have a couple more that I want to do like that this week, so hopefully they help you guys navigate some of these lengthier Ultra League. Because I'm like, do I speed up the Ultra League battles and do 10 sets, or do I kind of slow it down? Because Ultra League's the games are already long as heck, and we're going to be here all night anyway. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one, and forgive me for the Ultra League logo missing. Bye-bye.